Ahoy hoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome, and if you're joining us from a previous video, hey, we love to see it, and I hope you're doing well. It's Season 8! Or the first season of the Coma continuance, the Dreamscape, what have you. It's like Marvel What If, except not at all like that. I'm going to include all 3 Dream seasons in one video because they just sort of work best as one long narrative, and it's absolutely best to review them as a whole, as you'll start to see the changes happening to the series in real time. These are spin-offs and individual adventures, but not quite. It's interesting. So, what worked, what failed, what noir, seaplane flying, space nautilus slaying antics will be curtailed? Don't get scratched and don't get scraped as we review the Archer Dreamscape. I will admit this is absolutely the best put together of the 3 stories. It's 3 months later and we find out that Archer is in a coma and Mallory and Lana bury Woodhouse. We then go into Archer's mind where he's a noir World War II vet working as a private investigator determined to find out who took out his assistant Woodhouse. He starts investigating and we even get our introduction to Pam and Cyril as detectives, with Cyril being corrupt and working for Len Trexler. Pam seemingly being imagined this season as a man, but still performed normally by Amber Nash. Archer goes to the crime boss Mother, which you guessed it is Mallory, and meets the singer Lana Kane and Mother's grunting bodyguard Zurg. Krieger would also be a bartender / German robotic specialist. The first episode is a lot of setup, but this is really just one long movie. Archer and Pam go to investigate what Trexler and his henchman Dutch, aka just straight up Barry, are up to. They're moving Chinese workers in trucks and shipping them around, and so Pam and Archer disguise themselves, steal the girls to set them free, and Archer backs over Barry's legs, crushing them completely. This would lead to several shots through the season where Pam takes all the Chinese workers into his home and imagines what life will be like through the years as he raises his massive family. It's oddly touching and just keeps popping up in funnier and funnier ways. Oh, and the episode ends with Cheryl / Charlotte Vandertunt approaching Archer to take her out. The episode does still have the performances you'd expect. The characters have depth, and it's honestly wild they got Jeffrey Tambor to play Len Trexler again, for an entire season 2. He is in this season more than he was in the rest of the show combined. That being said, doesn't this make sense when you look at the early seasons of Archer? Back when they were dealing with Odin and they had that very almost 1960s aesthetic. This is Archer's brain processing what he's went through, and we see all the people that stand out in his life. The premiere is held back by having to set up so much, but it's still what you'd expect an Archer noir adventure to be. No Good Deed is an ankle-flattening 8 out of 10. Here's a fun fact. April Hong would guest star in this episode, who just so happens to be the daughter of James Hong, who is in the 3rd season, making them the second father-daughter duo to be on the show after the Perlmans. The more you know. Ba-da-da-da. Yeah, it turns out Charlotte wants Archer to help fake her death, and that's really the entire episode. She has a body to use as her fake, and Archer struggles to be able to get the job done. Meanwhile, Trexler gets Barry set up with Krieger to fix his whole broken leg situation, and then proceeds to yell at Pam and Cyril for messing up and demands that he get his women back. Archer ends up being caught by Cyril and Pam as he and Charlotte are trying to drop a body. All very noir. It's odd looking at this season on an episode-by-episode basis, all things considered. It's very obviously meant to be watched all in one go, and I gotta say, the episode does a fantastic job of maintaining the tempo. You can more or less guess where the season is going to go, and it's never particularly deep, but it's still good Archer. He's imagining his own noir world. It's going to pull from his past to shape the story. I'd honestly be curious what someone that has never seen Archer before gets from watching this season. You only really know Barry is coming back as a robot later in the season because he's done that in the past. You can only jump to these conclusions because of what you've already been shown. And it's really hard to separate this season from the show as a whole to get that fresh experience. There's nothing particularly memorable about this particular episode, but it maintains the momentum and sets up for a bit of a pickup. Very nice is a tooth extracting 7 out of 10. Yeah, this is the jailbreak episode. Cyril and Pam take Charlotte and Archer to jail and plan on giving Charlotte over to Trexler as a way to make up for his lost truck, and we get to see Ray and Lana's band. The band would consist of Cliff, played by Wyatt Cenac, who you also hear in BoJack Horseman, Verl, played by Wendell Price, and Floyd, played by Keegan-Michael Key. You could argue, hey, wait, how come Cliff and Verl are played by actors who have never been in the show before? You could just say that Archer heard their voices walking around one day. If they were more integral parts of the story, yeah, there might be an argument, but I'm gonna have to shrug it off to justify one of the greatest guest stars of the entire show later on. That being said, not every episode can be a winner. It has more development between Archer and Pam, sure, and the bandmates are kinda funny, but my brain definitely turned off for this one. I get why this episode exists and you get to put all kinds of little references in, but it doesn't do anything as a whole. It's not funny enough to be a proper standalone episode, and it's not dramatic enough to maintain the momentum of the last episode. You know they're going to have to be fine, and that actually kinda hinders the whole, crime noir thing. Have someone get offed, have someone get taken out, add that extra suspense. It's not that won't happen later in the season, which is why I'm so confused. It's so close to being a good episode, but just never really hits that threshold. It never goes beyond, as it were. Jane Doe is a sloggy, hand-binding 6 out of 10. Alright, so Cyril and Archer both decide to do a ransom for Charlotte, and Sterling tries to convince her brother Cecil that he does in fact have her. So Cecil asks for a finger. And now Archer has to get a finger and prove that sure enough, Charlotte is driving them all insane and he just wants to get rid of her. Oh, and we learn more about Krieger's time in Germany and his experiments with robotics. If there was ever a nonsense episode, a true and proper filler episode of the season, it would be this one. I know it's the whole setting up the ransom thing, but it just doesn't materialize anything. It's just padding, which is so funny in an 8-episode season. Did we need Krieger's backstory? Not really, but it was perfectly fine and definitely not my problem with the episode. That's just kind of where I'm confused though, Does this Krieger background do anything? No, because he's not going to be this character after this season. Does Archer's backstory matter? Really? No, not at all. He'll keep getting a new one, and while it kinda works, it just sort of feels pointless a lot of the time. The flashes are interesting and jarring, but it really never goes deep enough into them that they have more weight. And sure enough, by the end of the episode, Charlotte's brother just sort of believes Archer and doesn't even need the finger anymore. There's also a lot of references through the season of Cecil being weird, and Eugene Merman definitely does not disappoint on that front. He makes him very, very, very creepy, but there's just so much of it. It just stands out in an episode that felt like one long sigh that just culminates in Barry becoming Mecha Barry, ready for revenge. Ladyfingers is a wheel spinning, fish stick cleaning 6 out of 10. It's the big handoff episode. Cecil is going to leave the ransom, and Archer has to race Cyril and Pam to get to it. Oh, and Lana sleeps with Archer to get her cut of the money, and you see what's happening, right? I kind of have to wonder if this season wouldn't have worked better as just, say, 5 episodes and really hit the ground running. Granted, I don't think FX would have been happy with so few episodes, but if you're going to do these linear narratives, the shorter they are, the more compact, the sharper they become. And overall, this is not bad as an Archer noir reimagining. There are still plenty of great jokes and the dialogue is sharp. They are still very much trying, and these are believable interpretations of these characters. I don't want anyone to think it's a bad season just because it's a little lesser compared to the seasons that came before it. It's not a cratering point. Not yet. But I have time to talk about this here because this is really just set up for the climax. Barry gets clothes, Archer races Cyril and Pam and gets in a crash as Cyril and Pam get away with the money, and Lana is stuck on the roadside. That's basically it. Oh, and we got the return of Trinette this episode, and I'll admit, she fits this noir idea perfectly. Honestly, I never thought I'd see the return of Trinette and go, huh, that's actually refreshing. What a perfectly delightful addition to the season, quite so, quite so. And yet I almost came close to saying those exact words. Quite so, especially. And I mean, shout out to Maggie Wheeler. She does an absolutely fantastic job this season and honestly elevates the season as a whole by being there, which is wild. Overall, the episode on its own is padded a bit, but it's honestly still an incredibly solid little adventure. Even though there are arguably more episodes than needed, no episode this season is really more than 20 minutes. So even if there are padded moments, they're very brisk unless it's, say, Krieger's backstory, which felt more like a here's a cool quick story we can do more than anything. Otherwise, the ransom drop and chase scene that make up most of the episode was still genuinely entertaining, and while there are action moments, it's the dialogue that still stands out, which is the most important thing. Sleeper's Wake is a mountainside skiing 8 out of 10. It's really kind of wild how 2 episodes a season makes all the difference, because I mean we only have 3 episodes to go now. It's already coming to an end. Archer tells Mother her money was taken by the cops, Lana pulls Trinette over, and we find out she's actually a federal agent trying to take Mother and Trexler down. They get picked up by Cecil and head to Trexler's while Pam and Cyril head there, as does Archer, to get Mother's money. I gotta admit, as an ascent to a climax, this is just kind of masterful. I mean, it really works. Does the series work as an Archer story? This is kind of where I would say no, and it's not trying to. But it absolutely succeeds as just this crime noir short series with an Archer skin. Weirdly, it's the only one that feels this way of the 3, but it makes so much sense. I know I'm talking about later seasons I haven't gotten to yet, but revisiting the conclusion of this season is just eye-opening. It's so good. Because when they get to Trexler's house, it's covered in blood. And they find Trexler bound at a table Last Supper style as Barry lights a smoke and steps out to the genuine horror of the gang. I mean, it is a gruesome spectacle. I will give Archer credit that it knows how to do over-the-top violence effectively when it needs to. They never truly take the weight of death and maiming away. And now everyone is face to face with a very upset Barry as the episode ends. Like, it's just a satisfying endgame and really makes Dreamland shine as this almost celebration of the aesthetic of the early seasons of the show. Sure, Cecil was introduced in season 4, but otherwise, Trexler and Barry being the bad guys again, Trinette showing up, it's very reminiscent of the first couple seasons in a lot of great ways, which makes sense with where Danger Island goes. I'm not even padding. Waxing Gibbous genuinely feels like the best realization of what they were going for with this season and stands out overall. Waxing Gibbous is an upper and downer blending 9 out of 10. It's the Battle in the Mansion episode. Everyone is trying to get out and Archer has to keep Trexler away from Barry, who now knows that Archer was the one that ran over his legs and effectively helped him become the revenge-fueled ragebot he is today. I'm just gonna say it here, these last 3 episodes are truly the best of the season, bar none. And I kinda sorta think the end justifies the season as a whole. These episodes would not be as good without the setup of the previous episodes. The whole Pam sub-story has been building through the season, and you even see them at their 110th birthday party in this weird futurescape with their massive family. And it's just so incredibly dumb yet wholesome in the best way. It's such a wild and yet very Archer payoff to a joke like that. And so, Archer and the gang had to escape Barry, and after fighting the halberd-swinging, revenge-scheming BattleBot, Archer actually has some introspection. All he wanted to do was find out who took out Woodhouse. He never intended to get wrapped up in anything. He never wanted to do any of this. He just wanted to find out who was responsible for taking out his friend. And then Len tells him, Mother did it. Imagine this is how Archer's subconscious is processing the news of Woodhouse being dead. He has to process that he wasn't there and lost the man that effectively raised him. Of course, his mind is going to jump to wild conclusions like that Mallory did it. But we know how Woodhouse died, and it's really not a surprise at all given his character. But again, if you look at it at that deeper level, it just makes this episode work that much more. There's a more aware introspection than you'd expect in this episode, and it elevates it as a whole. Gramercy Halberd is a candle extinguishing 9 out of 10. And here we are, the season finale. Everyone gathers at Mother's. Archer to confront the killer of Woodhouse, and Barry to settle his score. Barry crashes in and we find out who really took out Woodhouse. It was Barry. Just because. Mother actually brings up a great point of why would she take out a user that was paid in advance. He was just straight up good business for her. So yeah, of course, when you actually think about it, why would she do that to Woodhouse? It's just, Barry? Out of everything, it's Barry? But I mean, that's Archer's psyche. Of course he's gonna blame Barry for it. Why not? It's just better to blame Barry. Krieger unleashes his battle dogs to take out Barry, and then everyone has to proceed to fight off the aforementioned battle dogs. Mother takes Archer's hair trigger and accidentally blasts Lana, who then proceeds to get shot 7 times, which Archer comments on with a very meta awareness, and that's really the episode boiled down. Everyone knows what's going on as a viewer, and in the world, Archer is acting more like the real Archer. The facade of Dreamland is starting to wear away, and the story it was meant to tell is concluding. You can hear the end credits starting to creep and the end music swelling. The conclusion was a bit rushed, and Archer gets over Lana's death pretty quickly, but almost in a way that you know it doesn't matter, and he knows it doesn't matter. Or he just doesn't care anymore. He deep down knows she wasn't real, that none of this was real. But in his head, he created this vengeance story for Woodhouse. He concocted his own way of grieving by playing out a noir thriller. Minutes after Lana is lying on the club floor, her lips already turning blue, he just up and leaves to pay respect to Woodhouse's grave. Because this wasn't about anyone other than him and Archer. And that's not a mistake. It's so creatively intentional, it works beautifully. You know these characters are fake, and now you kind of see that Archer does too. The last we see of Archer, he's standing at Woodhouse's grave, and we get a quick cut over to Pam's house, where we find out that the Chinese girls he saved had all left after thanking him for his kindness, and he starts to cry at the table. Which you know the story was so absurd already, and cooked up by Pam, but I don't know. Amber Nash is just so dang genuine you kinda wanted that happy ending for him, but it absolutely makes sense in the real world that they just leave. And to conclude a running joke like that you could even argue dragged for too long, having that kind of very realistic conclusion to it is just the most Archer thing imaginable. And the very last shot before the credits is an in-loving memory to George Coe, and the end music isn't the usual sharp, loud, bombastic music we were used to, but rather this soft, slow jazz that never jolts you from this moment. An entire season made in honor of one man, and it's really something special. And George Coe was incredibly instrumental in early Archer being as great as it was. The man was in the first season of Saturday Night Live, fun fact. I think this was a season of Archer that needed to be made. To where there's no question if Woodhouse is alive or dead, and they want to make the message clear. Woodhouse is gone. And we miss him more than you could ever truly know. Aflosung is a rock leaving 10 out of 10. And that was Archer Dreamland, which, of the three, it's definitely the most concise. You're in, you're out with a little padding in the middle, but nothing extreme. It was just a good noir thriller from start to finish, and I genuinely didn't hate it. It was again a celebration of the earlier seasons of Archer, and I gotta admit, especially with the Meta Lana line at the end, I wouldn't have been all that mad if this was the last season of Archer. To have that eulogy at the end also be Archer saying goodbye to himself in a way. It's a great little side adventure, and what we get next season is honestly kinda wild, and I hate to say it, but probably my favorite. We'll have dragons, radioactive treasure, and the French, oh my! So come with me as we dine on Season 9! Starwipe, Super Flash. Alright, here we are, Season 9, aka Danger Island. Danger Island having been inspired by Tales of the Golden Monkey, which was an ABC drama from 1982 to 83 and ran for a mind-boggling 22 episodes. It was in, it was out. Adam Reed has said in the past it was one of his favorite series, and funnily enough, it was also the series that inspired Tailspin of all things. So yeah, Archer and Baloo actually have some things in common, which is wild in the best possible way. So, what worked, what failed, what German machinations will be curtailed? Do these episodes deserve a shrine? It's time to review Season 9. And right from the get-go, we get exactly what this season is gonna be. Archer is a disgraced former fighter pilot that lost his eye. His business partner is Pam, and Krieger is their talking parrot companion, Crackers. The episode opens with Pam waking Archer next to Cheryl, aka Charlotte, who we find out has cheated on her husband on her honeymoon with Archer, much akin to Heart of Arkness, and there you have it. Danger Island is just Heart of Arkness' aesthetic, fleshed out even more, because Adam Reed really loved Tales of the Golden Monkey, and when given the green light to write whatever he wanted, he made a dumb fun season with the gang, effectively on a tropical adventure. And I'm gonna be honest, gang, I actually really kinda love it. The main base of operations this season is the Hotel Lotus, where Mallory runs things with her manservant Manu, played by Tacoma FD's own Eugene Cordero. The Polynesian island is under French occupation, so Ray is the police chief, and we also get Lana as the princess of the royal family, and Cyril as a German tourist just really interested in opening a factory somewhere down there. Yeah, not up to anything bad swearsies. He's just like a really cool Frankenhaven guy. Cheryl has no money, so she has to work at the Lotus, and the rest of the episode focuses around Archer flying Cyril and Lana around the island to get a better look until the engines start to fail and the fuel pump gives. Everyone else abandons ship and floats onto the island while Archer tries to save the plane. And just pay attention to that. Saves the plane. Archer is the pilot in this new dream of his. Archer is basically Rip Riley from Heart of Arkness, who is basically just Jake Cutter from Tales of the Golden Monkey, except Archer is actually missing the eye that Jake Cutter was missing. Archer has never been a good pilot, but here he's actively trying to redeem that in his dreams, and I don't know, everyone seems to be having so much fun with the episode, I can't be mad at anything at all. You could tell this is Adam Reed's kinda kid passion project, and when I initially watched these seasons, I thought this was the weakest one, and in revisiting them, this is absolutely the strongest pound for pound Archer season of the bunch. Strange Pilot is a fuel pump failing, 9 out of 10. The Cheryl Charlotte stuff this season is admittedly the weakest element, but we'll get into it quick. This is when Cheryl is in jail for not having any money, and Mallory gets her out after she shows her usual Cherylness, making a very horrific wall painting with some bonbons, which is totally fine. But there was never a moment where I was like thrilled to see Cheryl or Charlotte this season. The bulk of the episode is mainly focused on Cyril, Lana, Pam, and Krieger getting out of the jungle, and Archer landing the seaplane on the street, swearing the street is 50 feet across, and he's 49 feet tip to tip, so he's got a little bit around 6 inches to work with. While shown a little in Dreamland, the main focus of this season being Archer and Pam's friendship is honestly so great. Because again, this is all in Archer's head. And when he thinks of his best friend, his partner, his good time pal to just have some beers with, of course it's Pam. We've seen that friendship grow over the show, and he's actively acknowledging it in his head. It's not Cyril or Lana, it's the only one that would make sense. It's also important to point out that in his head, he sees Pam as this machismo energy, even back in Dreamland. She can fight for herself, defend herself and her friends, and she's the one largely responsible for getting Lana and Cyril out of the jungle alive, even taking out a giant snake and fighting off Komodo dragons until Archer can pick them up after crashing the plane and taking out half the city. Because the street was not in fact 50 feet, which is the best Archer we've gotten in a minute. Archer is a horrible pilot in this series. He is just very, 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 very not good at his job. And that lines up with Archer perfectly. Cyril also mentions the golden idol, and we sort of get what the season is going to culminate in. A bunch of tales of a golden monkey, stories of a golden idol. Also, major shout out to J.G. Thirlwell for the soundtrack this season. There's just so many moments where it just feels so reminiscent of things like Johnny Quest and other survival adventures, so it of course makes me think Venture Brothers, which is never a bad problem to have. I never skip the intro of this season because it's honestly fantastic and it's so remixed in an incredible way. I mean, it's got like the bone jangling and it has such an aesthetic appeal. And it's so cool. I highly encourage you to watch the intro every single time. It's only 8 episodes. You're not out anything. Disheartening Situation was honestly the most I'd laughed at an episode of Archer in a minute. And frankly, one of the funniest episodes of this entire 3-season block, and it's easy to see why. Disheartening Situation is a clearance assured 10 out of 10. Archer and Pam have to get their seaplane onto the beach, and we find out about their failed, ahead-of-its-time business idea, chincholadas. This season is just the most Archer thing imaginable, and I need more of it in my veins. I would genuinely take 3 to 5 seasons of just Danger Island if I could, because, and I can't understate this enough, everyone is having fun with it, and you can tell. Their chemistry has never been higher. The cutaway gags are hysterical. Like, we get this Italian restaurant, Luigi's, that no one will go to because it's just horrible, and it's incredible. It is sheerly and utterly incredible. Like, the bulk of the episode isn't really anything. It can be described pretty quickly, because it's part of a bigger adventure, much like Dreamland. Unlike Dreamland, however, the cutaways are much more comical and way, way more lighthearted. That works better with the overall tone. I mean, lighting also plays a big role in this as well. Dreamland was a lot of shadows and dark hues, and Danger Island is very, very bright and colorful, so it naturally lends itself to being more upbeat. Lana and Cyril sleep together, and Archer and Pam use Cheryl to seduce Cyril to give themselves time to break into Cyril's place and find something they could use to find the idol. They also discover that Cyril is in fact a German soldier looking for rare items to help a certain collection of demonetizing German bad guys in an upcoming super war. Which, I know I haven't talked about him much, but Chris Parnell is phenomenal this season and really brings the Cyril character to life like only he could. He slips in and out of German and never really breaks that identity, and I love it. He makes this character feel like a true and proper German bad guy that, of course, Archer would slap Cyril's face onto. He's very much an unsung hero of the cast who elevates any show he's in significantly. I don't know, the more I learn about Chris Parnell, the more I love him. Fun fact, his first movie was Jingle All the Way. He isn't even from Germany or anything. Man's from Memphis and just that good. The episode does drag a little bit, but the end with Krieger Crackers attacking Cyril and the end scene with the Ouija's is perfection. It's so good. I love Luigi's, even though it looks horrible. Just utterly and completely amazing. I am so happy this season exists. different modes of preparing the fruit is a lackluster breakfast served 8 out of 10. So this episode is why I have such a problem with the flashbacks in Dreamland. Cyril calls in some fellow German bad guys who descend on the island, and Archer has a flashback to when he was being shot out of the sky by a German pilot named Ziegler. When Archer comes back around, Ziegler is standing over him as the leader of the pilots under Cyril's command, and that's the episode. Archer literally confronting his past. Ziegler would be played brilliantly by Flula Borg, who is just fantastic and will show up throughout the rest of the series. The other soldiers will be played by Hans Schruber, but my god, if you haven't watched Captain Fall and Centaur World, you need to. I know Flula Borg has done other stuff, but few things are as enchanting as Comfortable Doug. Flula Borg genuinely brings this whole episode together. Cheryl Charlotte starts to woo the German soldiers and starts to get more power around the hotel as Ray is steadily pushed out. Archer really wants to get revenge on Ziegler and even burns one of their planes and steals the other while kidnapping Pam to be his rear gunner to end the firefight once and for all. Throughout the episode, we get flashbacks of Archer losing to Ziegler again and again and again. He took Archer's eye, he took his career, and now he's trying to steal his paradise, which I should be clear, Archer has not become a better pilot since the flashbacks. Most of this show is a showcase of how bad of a pilot he actually is. And while he puts down Pam and calls her ideas stupid, she's actually the one that shoots Ziegler out of the sky and saves the day before the two proceed to crash into the ocean. As a just one-off episode with no other elements attached, this would be really solid. In the context of the season, it might just be the best episode of the bunch. It's the best jokes, the best Archer story, and while you kind of care for what's been set up, it still stands incredibly well on its own. A warrior in costume is a seaplane salvaging 10 out of 10. It's the start of the hunt for the Golden Idol! Cyril heads out with his troops, Archer and Pam go spelunking in the jungle, and Mallory, Ray, Charlotte, and Lana all head off too. Most of the episode being focused around Cyril popping uppers with his men and getting a boost, while Archer and Pam get stuck in quicksand and have a heart-to-heart that all culminates in them being captured by cannibals. Again, it's much like Sleeper's Wake in the last season where it's setting everything up. Although where I felt Dreamland could have been shorter, I genuinely would have liked if this was longer. I would happily take a full 13-episode season of Danger Island. Gives everything some more time to cook since it's not like there was a ticking clock or anything, and could potentially give us more high-quality one-off adventures. Obviously, I get why we got shorter seasons, but when this is adapting a TV series compared to, say, a film, it would make sense for it to have a longer run. That's always, that's what I'm saying. It could be fun. I'm actually upset we're running out of episodes to talk about, and I'm baffled I feel that way. But again, this is some of the best Archer delivery, the best Pam and Krieger. Lucky Yates is just on an absolute roll, and he makes Crackers way better than he has any right being. I mean, his delivery is perfect, and he does like this weird Marx Brothers ha-cha-cha-cha, but it works for that character. It works for Crackers, and I'm a fan. This is also the best Cyril as a villain of all time, and the episode as a whole is genuinely solid because this season focuses on the strength of the entire show. This one element makes the show stand above all others. You know it. Say it with me now. Dialogue. I wonder why I keep saying that. Why do I keep bringing up these connections and bonds and how important dialogue is to a series that's roots go back to C-Lab? I'm sure I'm overthinking it. Strange Doings in the Taboo Groves is a rope throwing 8 out of 10. As everyone keeps searching for the idol, the German soldiers take out the monkeys like cold-blooded monsters, and Pam and Archer are taken to the cannibal village where they prepare to be cooked and try and make peace with one another and run into Noah, played by returning legend David Cross. Oh, and the King of the Cannibals would be played by Keone Young, one of the best voice actors of all time. He was fantastic in Godzilla Singular Point, that's all I'm saying. Check it out. Man's prolific. I honestly kind of wish he had more to do with the king here, but it's honestly fine. And while I get why Noah is here, with all the obvious similarities to Heart of Darkness since they both pulled from Tales, I don't know. I wish we had Patrick Warburton back for something this season. Even if he's not Rip or Archer's character, get him to do something. You got Jeffrey Tambor back for a whole season, but he's not here for one episode? It's a bummer, but it's fine. The episode ends with the cannibals taking out a German and Archer and Pam prepping to help them fight off the German bad guys. It's a perfectly fine setup to the conclusion of the season, though the conclusion feels like it's coming in just way too hot. It doesn't feel set up quite yet, and we're already in the descent. Some remarks on cannibalism is a well-seasoned but short-lived 7 out of 10. Everyone comes together and starts training the cannibals to defend themselves from the German forces while Cheryl Charlotte is worshipped like a god. The first half is the setup where Cyril gets more soldiers and the kids and elderly learn to fight. The second half is the big battle where Cyril has a mech suit akin to Alien and is marching with his men to assault the village, and they're successfully fought off with Cyril vowing revenge. I know I keep saying I wish I had more, but if this season had 23-minute episodes or 13 episodes, it would just be night and day even better. This could have easily been 2 episodes and been fine. The jokes are still super sharp, the dialogue is great, and everything presented here is solid, make no mistake. I just genuinely wanted more. More jokes, more scenes, more of any of this. It's basically a Universal ride where you're dragged along because you had to figure out what the idol is, and TikTok, we're already out of time. We need to be across town and at Epcot for our virtual queue of Guardians like 20 minutes ago, so we need to be power walking. Let's go, bro! Noah also feels weirdly both overly included and underutilized. It's weird. Like, he's there saying stuff, but he's not really doing much of anything. Lana is also kind of the same way. She never really becomes her own character. She's just sort of there along for the ride. And now, with the day saved, there's only one more thing left to do. Get the idol. Comparative wickedness of civilized and unenlightened people is a bone-lickingly good 8 out of 10. And here we are, the season finale. You know what it is without even watching it. The gang go through the jungle and get to the temple where they go through a bunch of traps and have to solve ancient puzzles and discover that the legendary idol is actually made of uranium, which would be very important to a military power. The Cannibal King, knowing the danger and getting an immense amount of joy in sending them all to their doom, which is honestly pretty great. I love his little chuckles. Cyril attacks in his mech suit, and before long they're fighting and dangling over a bunch of lava, with Archer sacrificing himself to save everyone, which was genuinely surprising. You'd never expect him to just fall. You'd expect him to somehow make it through, to somehow save the day, and he just doesn't. He just falls right into the lava. And how does everyone else get out or fare after he does? If he doesn't know, how would we? See, with like 4 minutes left in the episode, we immediately cut to a spaceship deep in the cosmos. Everything is shut off and we go through each hull until we come across the gang all asleep in stasis pods, with Archer being awoken by the ship's AI, Mother, introducing us to Archer 1999, the last of the dream arcs, and even having a special end credits to get us ready. The finale is a perfect example of Danger Island. Tragically rushed. Cut 3 episodes off of Dreamland and give them the Danger Island. Give it time to breathe. Give us more. Here's an idea. Give Danger Island 22 episodes like Tales of the Golden Monkey had. Something. Anything. I'm begging you. I so don't want to talk about 1999. I thought I did, but it was a trick. A silly, stupid trick. Please let me dream for just a minute longer. This is genuinely fantastic, though. It's such an interesting idea that not only is Archer a bad pilot this season, but that he fails. The last season, he didn't fail at all. He walks off into the sunset, his mission complete. Here, he kind of just dies a hero's death and moves on. A Discovery is a cosmic interloping 7 out of 10. Danger Island was just genuinely fun, and I didn't appreciate it properly the first time I watched it. I was antsy and desperate to get back to actual Archer. And as bad as it is to say, I kind of wish the series ended here. I wish it ended with Danger Island in 1999 didn't even happen. It's not bad, but it's too close to him waking up. Let him sleep. Please. 5 more seasons of Danger Island. It can be done. I believe in you. Honestly, if Adam Reed ever made a proper Tales of the Golden Monkey-esque animated series, I'd watch it in a heartbeat. You could just tell he had a passion for that idea and really wanted to make his own version. And that's something you notice in a lot of the interviews around Danger Island. All the actors talk about how creative Adam is, how his scripts work, and how he has such a vibrant idea for where these characters are going to go and what they should be in this new iteration. And that really speaks to the talent of one man being able to steer a spy show like this for so long. And as much as I don't want to leave the tropical paradise that is Danger Island, I know I can't stop. I know I can't just close my eyes and pretend like the last 4 seasons of the show don't happen. But this was a beautiful send-off to the Archer we used to know. But we've still got 1 more to go, so how you doing? How you been? It's time to review Season 10. I know I already used it. I don't care. 10 is tricky. Space. The final frontier. A place where you could be a Red Dwarf parody or Star Trek, Star Wars or Stargate. Maybe you want to be unique and do a Battlestar Galactica. Archer would sorta do its own thing in this period as we have a brisk sci-fi adventure before everyone's favorite super spy comes back. When I initially watched these seasons years ago, this was my favorite because it didn't drag me along in the conclusion. It showed a light at the end of the Coma tunnel, but now I wonder if I would have been better off just hitting reverse and going back through Danger Island again. So, what worked, what failed, what mass robotic explosions will be curtailed? If not now, then when? Because it's time to review Season 10. Yeah, you thought I didn't have anything. You thought I was a fool. Everyone wakes up from their stasis pods and we get the characters of this season. Krieger is the android ship doctor, Cheryl is the ace pilot, Ray is the cosmic gigolo, Pam is a just kinda giant rock monster thing, and Archer and Lana are the divorced co-captains. Oh, and Cyril, unlike last season where he was the big bad villain, yeah, he's a space accountant now. They get their bearings and discover a bit of slime on their ship that's actually sentient, and he is Bort, played by comedic wonder Sam Richardson. Which, if you haven't seen Detroiters, or I Think You Should Leave, you're living a half-fulfilled life. They take Bort home, where they're ambushed by Barry 5 and the pirates that have been attacking them the entire time, since Archer has a debt that needs to be paid to Barry. It's actually really kind of solid. As far as space adventures go, you get a pretty good idea of what Archer is going for here. Not quite Alien, not quite Red Dwarf, just very dreary future ideas that work for this season brilliantly. 1999 isn't bad, it just never really knows what it wants to be, and I'll admit it's a little odd that the only characters that seem to change this season are Pam and Mallory. Everyone else is just sort of themselves, but different. And where you can see the inspiration in Dreamland from early seasons, Danger Island from say seasons 3 to 5, this would be seasons 6 and 7, which if you loved them, you're in for a treat, and if you didn't, it's only 9 episodes. Board the Garge is a space pirate fighting 8 out of 10. Barry wants the cargo Archer stole, and he's willing to do any kind of interrogation he needs to make him talk. We also get Barry's torture bird Funbeak, the diabolical mechanical turkey. He's Thanksgiving horror. Very deadly, very demure. Oh, and the gang had to fight each other gladiator style for Bort's birthday, starting with Cyril slicing and dicing Robo Dr. Krieger. We also get Mallory infusing Funbeak with her energy and breaking Archer out, which has a very poignant moment where she tries to convince Archer to abandon his crew and just take the ship and run. But he refuses. He doesn't want to lose Lana. Archer from the early seasons may have abandoned everyone, but this Archer didn't. This modern Archer cares for his friends and for Lana and wants to do right by them. He steals a gladiatorial champion's outfit, goes to get them back, fights everybody off, and manages to get them back to the Seamus for some cereal. It's the most genuine Archer episode we've gotten in all the Dream seasons, and it really feels like the reality is starting to shine through more and more, and I'm kind of about it. The jokes are more meta, and while everyone else is basically just themselves, I just have no idea why Pam is a giant rock monster all of a sudden. It's fine, it just feels odd. This opening two-parter is great though, and sets up that Archer is something of Barry's that he's not giving up, and they're actively being hunted by pirates because of it. Look at that! Motivations! In space! I'm sure they'll matter to the season as a whole. They really won't. Happy birthday is a gladiatorial and glad to see ya. 8 out of 10. Pam made a sandwich that one of the ingredients hatches on and runs into the ship, creating a ton of eggs. Archer finds the creature adorable, and when their food reserves run low, they start eating the eggs, which makes them all act on their deepest desires and lose all inhibition. It's very Farscape Red Dwarf. The episode even ends with them jettisoning the eggs and having them take out future space bread, because why not? Again, it's the most familiar Archer crew, and they're also not fractured this season. You aren't running into Charlotte in the third episode or having Cyril reveal he's collecting uranium idols for those right guys. They are a crew on a spaceship going on wacky space adventures together. Archer and Lana sleep together and are on and off again, and you can tell they still have feelings for each other. Cyril is really just Cyril. Everyone is basically just themselves, and you could just as easily have this episode be about Krieger pumping LSD into the vents at the spy agency, and everyone giving into their inhibitions that way, and comedy ensues. Personally, it just felt too long, and they hung on jokes that didn't need to be stretched out. The episode doesn't do anything to the grander scheme of the season, and it just felt like a rehash of old Archer episodes than something unique, even if it's about them eating alien eggs on a spaceship light years away from Earth. The Leftovers is, frankly, left out. 7 out of 10. The gang gets swallowed by a giant space kraken ammonite nautilus thing, with Cheryl and her fighting ship providing, I guess, cover fire, comedic relief. While inside the giant space monster, they run into Commander Glenda Price of the Tristan, another ship that got swallowed, and she talks about all of her grand accomplishments and how she tried to lead her people until the very end when rations were out and people were going mad with space madness. Commander Price would be played by special guest star Jillian Bell. So, Archer, Pam, and Price all venture deeper into the beast to get the power of the Tristan pumped into the Seamus to rock it out when we find out that sure enough, Commander Price was the one that got space madness and sacrificed her team so that she would live. Archer convinces her to die a hero's death by staying back to route the power and even plays at her megalomania to convince her to do it, and then they all fly out of the squid and everyone's happy. I mean, I guess Archer shows that he's all for his team and wants to protect his crew, but otherwise this episode does nothing. They weren't trying to escape space pirates or find coordinates to home or anything, they were just fighting a squid in space for some reason. I mean, do nothing, spin your wheels episodes in short seasons like this are already a problem. So if you're gonna do it, you need to do it right. Filler episodes can't just pop in and be delightful. You need to really sell it. Dining with the Zarglorp is a digestion impairing 6 out of 10. Look, we all say things in the heat of the moment. Do nothing filler episodes are bad. They need to be done in a special way to matter. And you know what? Sometimes I am the dumb one that says the dumb thing. But out of the entire season, this Spin Its Wheels filler episode is easily the best and easily one of the best Archer episodes of all time. The crew get pulled out of lightspeed at a giant ancient space station where they encounter a robot named Mr. Deadly, who is a doomsday device developed by an ancient civilization to end a constant war. However, the war ended before he could detonate, and so now he goes around begging people to say his trigger words, and Archer's determined to show him life's worth living so that, half the cosmos doesn't blow up. Mr. Deadly would be played by the true champion of Arizona, the good time pal, the man that stands out in an IT crowd, a shining golden beacon in a sea of crapopolis, Matt Berry. When I heard those sweet tones of his perfect comedic delivery, nothing else mattered. This episode became one of the funniest things imaginable as he's whispering to butterflies to give him the sweet relief of death. I love it. I love every bit of it. Cheryl is obsessed with death, so she's always pushing him. Krieger is selling weapons on the black market, and everything is right and good in the world. Oh, look, it's alien versions of Charles and Rudy, and they want Mr. Deadly for their space shenanigans. The episode culminates with Mr. Deadly sacrificing himself to save the crew from a black hole and finding something he wanted to live and die for. It's great, and it's got a wonderful, out-of-this-world guest star. How would Archer know who Matt Berry is? He never did anything in the show before. To which I say, who cares? Matt Berry is in Archer. If it works, I'll ignore it. If it doesn't, I'll call attention to it. I am biased, 100%. And here, it doesn't just work, it absolutely sings. Mr. Deadly Goes to Town is a detonation-friendly 9 out of 10. The gang go down to a planet where they're hunted by totally not the Indominus Rex, a giant, sometimes invisible T-Rex, and as they're fleeing for their lives, they find a ship full of dead versions of themselves. They start to wonder if it's a temporal field or maybe a different dimension. What kind of Twilight Zone stuff is going on here? And this Archer of this crew seems to genuinely care about his crewmates and has no hair. Krieger was on that ship, and I know Krieger is very much like the androids from Alien, but I don't know, I miss Crackers. Crackers was fun. Oh wait, turns out these were just clones Mallory made so they could make money twice as fast since the clones could work while the other crew were doing their own thing. Oh, okay, so there wasn't anything fun, or alright. So, okay, but maybe they find something on this trip that helps the rest of the journey. No? So it doesn't need to be here at all and doesn't really add anything other than time? Oh. In Noir, you could at least justify it by stretching elements out. You knew that there was an end goal they were reaching to. Find Woodhouse's killer. In Danger Island, you had an end goal established by the second episode, and things were going on that generally revolved around the gathering of the idol in some degree. Here, Road Trip does nothing. It is a nothing episode, full of nothing. It doesn't even let itself be cerebral or deep by going, oh yeah, this is a different dimension, or anything. There's not even some ambiguity at the end to make you wonder what it was. They just straight up tell you. Which works on classic Archer as a final punchline, absolutely, but here it just sort of fizzles. What are they going for? What's being set up? We have 3 more episodes left in the season, and nothing has paid off. Like this season, there's always this mention of going home to Earth, and Archer is always adamant of keeping the party going. He doesn't want to stop going on adventures. And you could take that as his brain saying he wants to stay in a coma, but then why do all of this? Why have this nothing episode? It's unfortunate. Road Trip is a backup plan fumbling 5 out of 10. The gang run into a massive space pirate stronghold and decide to take it out. That's the episode. That's the whole idea. Cyril and Cheryl go on a mission, Archer and Lana fight with sticky grenades, and Pam's there. Oh, and they find a bunch of endangered alien animals on the ship, so they have to get them off the ship before it blows. The alien animals very reminiscent of the ones you save in Metroid. Except instead of like blue antennaed monkeys, they're basically just a bunch of blue antennaed ocelots. Get it? Because Archer loves ocelots. Oh, they're supposed to have translators so they can communicate with the space pirates and slip in undetected. And those don't work and everything falls apart, so they have to scramble to get to the end. How do you think the episode ends? Do you think that Archer and Lana saved the day with the endangered animals and used them to stampede through the pirates and shock them all with their magical alien force lightning? Yes? Hey, great, you know exactly how this episode's gonna play out and have some kind of psychic powers, the government will find you. It's fine. And does, I guess, sort of escalate advance the space pirate angle, so hey, I can't be too mad at it? and compared to Road Trip, it's night and day. But again, it just feels so padded. Why do we care about the space pirates? Who are the space pirates? We know that Barry hires them for things, but why are they going out of their way to blow up this giant ship? Why do any of this? Why is this episode here? It's only 9 episodes. Just give me a reason for this being here. That's all I need. That being said, Space Pirates is an armed and ready 7 out of 10. And here we are, the 2-part season finale. Archer and Cyril find a cube floating in space. It's just a void cube floating in the nothingness, so when they bring it back on board and it seems somewhat harmless, everyone is sort of relieved until it goes missing and they're searching the ship, with Archer convinced everyone else is losing their minds. Even though he's the only one that sees TV's Michael Gray in a locker and starts seeing everyone in their usual outfits. Archer is losing his tether to this reality and lashing out, even proceeding to attack Lana until he's knocked unconscious by Pam. While in the brig, he's given a martini by none other than Woodhouse, who he knows shouldn't be there. He knows he's losing his mind at this point. He knows he's slipping, and he may not even be aware of what he's going to slip into next. Q*bert is a perfect example of good space horror, and I wish they did more episodes like this season. And it's very odd that the episodes I had a problem with this season were the ones not written by Adam Reed. They're not horrible by any means, just noticeably different. They're not quite perfect understandings of who these characters are. Q*bert, however, is a return to form right as the show is ending the dreamscapes, and it shows there's still plenty of high-quality good stuff in the pipeline. Q*bert is a void sphere appreciating, martini chugging 8 out of 10. And here we are, the Dream World and season finale. Archer is still losing his mind and currently on trial with Ray as the judge. He, of course, picks TV's Michael Gray to represent him, whom, of course, no one can see. As the trial is going on, the ship is attacked by Barry 5 and the space pirates, and with the gang outmanned, Archer tells them to let him go so he can save them. The only person not agreeing this time being Lana, which is a very important point. Lana had agreed with most of his plans up to that point in an I hate that he's right way. Now she can't get over what he did, understandably, and doesn't trust him. However, the rest of the gang free Archer, and he takes the fight to Barry 5 as they square off in an Old West saloon while everyone else escapes. Archer is dead set on making sure everyone gets out alive. Even if he's losing grip on reality, there's still his crew, and he still cares for them in his own way. He still wants them to be safe because of what they represent, because of who they represent. And he's always ready to die a hero's death for his friends. No matter the world, no matter the stakes, no matter what he's up against, he will always want to do the right thing. It shows how much he genuinely appreciates his friends, Lana, Mallory, and as everyone is clear, the ship explodes, taking Barry and Archer with it. We then get a montage of all of Archer's adventures up to this point. Everything we've been there for, and sure enough, after 3 years and 25 episodes, Archer wakes up. He has a nurse named Gladys, played by Chantel Casson, and his mother Mallory hasn't left his side for 3 years to be there when he woke up. And when he wakes up, when he realizes what he's been through, he asks how Lana is, which Mallory tells him is a story for a different time, and the most important thing is that he's okay. That he's home. It's at the end of the dream, and after 3 seasons, we're back to our status quo. But will things ever truly be the same after this? Robert De Niro is a fantastic actor and a delightfully noble 9 out of 10. And there we have it. That's the conclusion of the Dream seasons. Anything you think I was right on, wrong on? What was your favorite season? Least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like what you saw, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. We're out here. Overall, I think 1999 was the weakest Dream season of the 3 with the strongest season finale. Danger Island being the best in my eyes, with Dreamland having the best overall story. Each one had its own unique charm, and I think that really speaks to the talent of Adam Reed and the entire cast and crew. They knew what they wanted these dream seasons to be, and they genuinely had a blast when they were allowed to just run wild with those ideas. Granted, by 1999, the cracks were starting to show, and it was time for us to move on. And what we move on to is 4 more seasons of a show about a super spy. I remember being excited that we were out of the dream seasons, but now I kind of wish we were back in a coma. But that's a story for a different day. So until then, that's going to do it for us here at the Lecture Hall. And if you like what you saw and want to support the channel, consider joining our Patreon or membership programs today. $2 a month and you get early access to videos, special polls, and even your name on this fancy list. Woo! Thank you all so much for watching. It means the world, and I can't believe we're almost done with this fantastic series. But don't go to heaven until we reviewed Season 11. And like always, stay strong, keep fighting, know that I always believe in you, and if you just woke up today, I'm proud of you. Keep going, there's gotta be a wind coming your way soon. A rising tide lifts all ships, and I can feel one hell of a wave coming. Goodbye, everybody, and I'll see you all next time.